Hey everybody, so thank you for opening up this ed puzzle. In this video, we are going to look at our notes for the constant of proportionality, which is a vocab term we will define in about a minute or two. So if you could hop over to OneNote in your 2.1 rates tab, you should have a page that's called Notes, Constant of Proportionality. So you're going to want to open that. That way you can follow along in your own notebook. If you want to do a quick split screen between OneNote and Edpuzzle, you can just kind of minimize one of them. If you drag, for one instance, for OneNote to the one side, you're able to do your split screen like that. So that's just a suggestion. So we are going to get started on the green slide, which continues our warm-up today that we were talking about rice versus the number of people that it'll feed. So what we are going to do is take a look at how we could quickly fill in these different blocks that are missing, right? So again, today's warm-up, we had talked a little bit about a way to do this, but let's start looking for a pattern, right? So if we just look at the ratio 2 to 6, right? Well, 2 cups of rice will feed 6 people. Well, let's see, if we need to go from 2 all the way over to 6, we can accomplish that by multiplying by 3. Okay, how about 3 to 9? Well, we can do that by the same thing, right? 3 times 3 will get us to the 9. 2 times 3 will get us to the 6. So there's this relationship here, right? If we take the x value, so let's look at 10 cups of rice. If we multiply by 3, that gets us the number of people that it'll feed. So 10 cups of rice should feed 30 people. Okay, so maybe that's how you approach this for your warm-up. But then how do you find what amount of cups of rice will feed 45 people, right? Or in other words, what number can we plug in here that'll multiply by 3 to get us 45, right? And maybe if you did some guessing and checking, you would have found that this has to be 15 cups of rice to feed 45 people, right? So let's just make a quick observation, right? And we really already did this. The number of people, right? So anything in our right column is going to be 3 times as big as the number of cups of rice. Okay? Down where it says all the bold text, and this is where we're going to intro our vocab term. So the constant of proportionality. So you can jot that down. So the constant of proportionality is the multiplier that gets us from x to y. So let's see, what does that even mean? So first of all, you might have seen this. So we are now calling our left column x and our right column y. And you're going to see a little bit later there's a reason for that. We haven't done that before, and that's no different. It's just now we're adding some more notation, right? So the multiplier that gets us from x to y, that's going to be this times 3 in this case that we've been talking about in this example. Right? That's the number we can multiply by to get us from x, the cups of rice, to y, or the number of people. We represent the constant of proportionality with a variable, right? Again, a variable, probably learned this maybe in 6th grade math. It's just a letter to represent a value. In this case, k represents the constant of proportionality. And k is always going to be the number that you're multiplying by to get from x to y. Right, so in this case, it would be 3. So let's scroll down and take a look at another example. So here we have a table between gallons and quarts. So maybe you're having a party and you're making iced tea, and you just need to make sure you need to convert between gallons and quarts to make sure you have enough. So they want us to figure out what is the constant of proportionality for this proportional relationship. Right, so in other words, what number are we going to multiply by to get from x to y? Okay, so again, take a minute, see if you can figure out what that has to be for 5 to 20. and then we will recap. So maybe you saw that it was going to be 5 times 4 gets us to 20. 3 times 4 gets us to 12. 8 times 4 will get us to 32. 12 times 4 will get us to 48. Right? So in this case, K, our constant of proportionality, is going to be 4. Just direct your attention to where it says proportional relationship. Right? How do you think, take a minute, how do you think we can tell from this table that this is going to be a proportional relationship? Okay? The way that we can tell this is going to be proportional is that the multiplier, the constant of proportionality, is the same thing every single time. Right? It's times 4 for all 4 of these rows. That tells us that this relationship is proportional. If even one of these was different, if it was times 4 times 4 times 3, that would no longer be a proportional relationship. Real quick, how do we know that K is equal to 4? Well, if we take any number of gallons, right? So it could be one of them listed on our table, could be something different. Whatever we make the number of gallons, if we multiply that by 4, that will always get us the number of quarts that it'll make. So that is a quick way to check. So again, we just found the times 4 by kind of guessing and checking. But there should be a way that we're able to calculate this, right? And it turns out that there is. Our shortcut for finding the constant of proportionality, it's always going to be y divided by x, right? Any value from our right column, so in this case 12, divided by whatever x goes with it, 3. So we can just quick check. 12, so there's our y, divided by 3, will definitely get us the 4, which we said was our constant of proportionality. So that's just a quick way to check that it will work out. So again, we could say y divided by x as a fraction, or as I just did it in the example there, we can also write it like this with the division symbol. Those are equivalent. They mean the same thing. It's just you can write it 2 different ways, right? But your shortcut here to calculate this K value, this constant of proportionality, is always going to be y divided by x. And that is the big takeaway here. Okay. We have 2 more examples to look at real quick just to continue practicing finding the K value. So in example 1 here, we have a recipe that says 6 tacos will serve 3 people, right? So we have different equivalent forms of the same ratio, right? 6 to 3, 3 to 15, and so on. They want us to first figure out what is the constant of proportionality. And we said we can do that by finding y divided by x. So we can pick any one of these. So let's just, I guess, make it easy on ourselves. Let's go with the small numbers. So let's pick 3 for our y. And we know y divided by x. We have to pick the x that goes with it. So it's divided by 6. So if we do 3 divided by 6, that is going to give us 0.5 as a decimal. Or if you did it as a fraction, it would reduce to 1 over 2, 1/2. So that is our multiplier that will get us from x to y. Right? So makes sense. 6 times 1/2 gets us to 3. 30 times 1/2 gets us to 15. 40 times 1/2 gets us to 20. And then you can verify this in your calculator. 56 times 1/2 will certainly get you to 28. So that is a quick way to tell us that that is going to be the constant of proportionality. Right? Same thing. How do we know? Well, if we take the number of tacos and multiply by 1/2, no matter how many tacos we have, if we multiply it by 1/2, that will always get us to the number of people. Right? And that's what the constant of proportionality really is. Right? It's the way to get from, in this case, tacos to the number of people. It's how we're relating those 2 different things. Okay? Finally, we know blank is proportional to blank. First thing we need to do is verify, is this a proportional relationship? So take a minute, think to yourself, is this going to be a proportional relationship? And how do you know that? Well, I hope you were saying, yes, Mr. Sobieski, it definitely is proportional, right? The reason we know that, all four of these multipliers are going to be the same thing. If even one of them was different, it would no longer be proportional. So we can say now, we know in this case, the number of people, right, or our y value in our table is always proportional to the number of tacos, or in other words, our x value. Again, we know that because the four constant of proportionalities in this table are going to be the same thing. Okay? All right, we have one final example to look at. So maybe you've been traveling down the highway with your family or somebody else, and you've seen a billboard like this. I know I see them all the time. This one tells us we're traveling along the highway and we're approaching I-78, right? It's the next highway that we're coming up to. It's going to take us 36 miles to get there. And with current traffic and everything, it's going to take us 54 minutes to travel that distance. So as a quick refresher, take a minute, see if you can fill in 2 more rows on this ratio table, and then we will pick up from there. So let's fill in the bottom one first. So maybe you multiply by 2, for example. Again, you could have done anything here, just make sure you're doing the same operation to both sides. So if we multiply by 2, that gets us the equivalent ratio 72 to 108, and that's perfect. And then we can work backwards here. So instead of multiplying, let's just divide. And I would divide by 3, that way you get whole numbers. So 18 divided by 3 will get you a 6. 27 divided by 3 will get you a 9. Okay. So, and again, you could have found maybe the unit rate even. Doing this and getting this to be a 1, right, by dividing by 6. And then 9 divided by 6. For your y value, if you do that, you'll get 1.5. So that would be your unit rate if you want to find that. But anyway, let's continue with our constant of proportionality discussion, right? We should be able to take this, find the constant of proportionality, and then just verify that it works for everything. So I'll put our arrows in, take 30 seconds, see if you can pause the video and find what this k value has to be by using our shortcut. Okay, we'll do it together. So this example, I'm going to do it in fraction form. So I know it's going to be equal to y divided by x. So, I don't know, maybe I'll pick 54 here. We'll go with bigger numbers. So I'm going to do 54 as our y value. That goes in the numerator of our fraction. And then x would have to be 36. So that goes in the denominator. Again, you could do some awesome fraction practice and talk about reducing that if you want. But for the sake of this video, we will just punch it into our calculator, and that should get us 1.5 in decimal form. Or if you did reduce your fraction and want to check, it would reduce to 3 halves, 3 over 2. And that is going to be our constant of proportionality here. Right? So that means if we multiply 6 times 1.5, that gets us to 9. 18 times 1.5 gets us to 27. 36 times 1.5 gets us to 54. 72 times 1.5 gets us to 108. Again, that is our constant of proportionality, and because these are all the same, we know we are going to have a proportional relationship here. So thank you so much for checking out this Edpuzzle video. I hope this helped. We are going to, in our next activity, dive into some more practice with this. But the big takeaway here is, right, identifying how to find the constant of proportionality and how to use that to maybe find missing values in a table. And we will do some more practice. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully this helped.